Okay, so let's get started. Let me take you to your Dropbox first of all to show you where the exam files are. And we have practice exams also in there. So today's session may not be very long, but at least um, it will be an hour at least is what I'm assuming. So let's just click on batch 1193 to see where it's at. It's in one of your folders somewhere. Um, it says final exam right on the top. This is and then there is practice exams. So let's look at the practice exam first. So this is a TXT file, it's a notepad file, and I'm going to see what's in there. Okay.
I had a quick
Uh,
question. How long will
yes.
how long will Dropbox materials be made available to us after the class ends?
What material? Sorry.
So all the materials in the Dropbox folders, how long will we be able
Oh,
to
they should be there for at least 1 year for you.
Okay,
So
got it.
they're not going away soon. They're going to be available to you for a whole 1 year, 12 months, you
Okay,
know.
great. Thank you.
And then you can always download them, like the important ones, the ebooks, the training guide, they're all downloadable. And the only thing is that you have to remember the password. So if you can put the password aside somewhere. Um, Anytime you have to open it, you have to use that. That's the only problem or the security that we have for these books, so that they don't get circulated around or copyright issues. So even if you forget the password, you'll have to just send us an email, to the support, and they will figure it out for you.
Okay,
So having said that, yeah, it's all available to you. Now, when I open this file, this is a TXT file, and you could see that there are four practice exams. These are just for practice reasons, meaning that, well, one of the good things about practice exam is um, that it is actually exactly built in the same pattern as the final exam. So when you're attempting your final and you've done plenty of practice with these Q&As, um, you can comfortably attempt your finals, and you won't find anything different except for some questions. Of course, it's not like it's going to be the same, but the good thing is the pattern is the same, the format is the same. Um, the other thing I will mention here with the practice Q&As is that these questions are built with the intention to give you enough practice that you're able to pass the exam. In other words, these questions are similar to or somewhat has a characteristic that covers the areas on which you will be examined in the finals. So that if you say, for instance, you got a very high grade in any of these modular exams. There are these four exams, first of all, one, two, three, four. So we call them modular because there are these four different modules of exams, and you can attempt any one of these of your choice, whichever you feel that you are better prepared for. Or at the time when you're doing your practice Q&As, if you're getting a very good grade, let's say over 75%, is what you're getting, I would say that immediately go and attempt your final exam for the same module, of course, so that you are in the practice and everything is fresh in your mind. And it is through my experience that I find anyone who does attempt the finals right after they get prepared or they have high grades coming on any of these modules, they are able to pass it much easily. So it is easier to pass the exams that way. And okay. The third part, which you will realize when we do our practice Q&As, is that there is these questions which, and we are talking about individual modules, and it applies, what I'm about to say applies the same for all four of these. So on each module, you will find that there could be a variable questions, like there could be for, like in this one, for instance, there is 37 questions in module one. Module one is, you know what that is, internet technology. So in that one, we've got 37 questions and the time given is 74 minutes. Um, and these 37 questions can vary. They could become 40 or 50 because in the practice exams, these are actually pulled from the question bank. So question bank means that they are randomized, and if there is, let's say, 40 questions in a randomized set of individual set of questions within one single module, then and you would be attempting, let's say, 20 or 25 of them. It means that they'll get rotated and they will be pulled randomly. So the next time you give the same exams, you might find some questions that are different. So the idea is that attempt these Q&As more than a few times so that all the exams are all the questions are gets played in your practice exams. Okay. So you know what I'm saying, like, I mean, the more you practice, the more likelihood of those random questions that you may have missed out in the first attempt or the second or the third would, eventually will start to show up. So that's one thing that sort of is just a tip for you. So the next part is about the timer, or how much of a time you will get per question. So it depends on the modules and it depends on the nature of the question, but you will notice that in the first one, for instance, there is 74 minutes given for 37 questions. Generally, on the average, the examiner or whoever is the preparer of these questions, they want to make sure that the questions are not as complex or as lengthy for you to answer that would go beyond 2 minutes for individual questions. So they will be under 2 minutes, but not more than 2 minutes. So averaging about 2 minutes or less. Uh, and individually, the questions are not timed. They are not timed as individual questions. So you know that. It is the entire exam that is timed, which means that you can take more time on one question, less on another. So there is no rush for you to have this pressure of finishing each question within set number of minutes. It is the entire exam length that you'll be concerned about. So if it says 74 minutes and there are 37 questions, you can imagine or you can assume that the exam would finish up in 74 minutes. Okay. Another thing, which is, and these are listed also, like, I mean, these are instruction sets, but I'm sort of verbally discussing it so that, you can ask a question like right away if you have anything to ask. The, okay, the individual exam, for instance, um, it would have some of the built-in facilities or facilities that would help you to overcome some of the unforeseen or some situations where you would have to, let's say, leave in between the exam, and or you want to take a break for whatever reason, and while you're attempting those exams. So the examiner or this system will allow you to pause that exam and then leave and come back at the time of your convenience, and it is not timed as leaving one exam and not coming back to it for more than a week or more than 3 days. Usually, that is usually it is expected your emergency or your whatever reason that you left the exam for is for a short period of time, meaning that try to come back to it within 24 hours. Keep that in mind because there are some restrictions or built-in checks which we do not control, which is part of what the class marker has embedded in their testing system. So one of which I just told you. Second is that sometimes you are doing pauses or you're pausing the exam with a high frequency or unusual frequency. Some people have done that to, I guess, to go and look for the answer or to test out that query or, for to refer the or read through the book or notes. And that sort of is the notion or that's the intelligence that the system might pick as an unusual activity. So it might raise a red flag. And when that happens, it's not that it's going to prevent you from giving rest of the exam or answer all the questions to finish the exam, but it will convey that red flag over to those who do the audits of your exam. So if any of those with the red flags are coming to the examiner, they would, they would they would hold the result. Okay. And then whatever happens next is between you and the examiner and the education department. So that's just a word of caution. Anyway, it hardly happens, and you wouldn't have to do that. It's one of those things that rarely become a problem. Okay, now if you have to get to the Q and A's for practice reasons, you can actually copy. Let's suppose you want to test out, and there is no limit to how many attempts you're going to make for the practice exams. And these are all practice exams. This says here as practice exams at the top, meaning that you can practice as much as you want. It's not going to affect anything. And basically, you will actually be striving to achieve at least 80% of those marks. And with enough practice with these questions, I can almost guarantee you, okay, that you will pass the final. So, having said that, I don't see that if you get 75 and over 75% and over, why you should not pass the finals. Okay. So let's just leave it at that. Now, the way I'm going to get connected to the exam is I'm simply going to copy this link here and I'm going to use a browser. I can use Bing. I'm just not using Chrome because it has my information in it. And I want to do something fresh, which means that no information that it should use on me. So I'm using a brand new browser, which I hardly use. It's Firefox. I can try this. And let's suppose I click on this link. The first screen that you will see, um, that's where I'm getting to, is exactly how you will be seeing or watching it on online. So the first screen would appear like this. And here you would see that it's asking you for an email address. If you notice in the in this frame over here, there is just one password at the top and everything else remains the same. Here, the only active part within each module is this link, nothing else. Okay. You don't get any more information besides this link and this password. Keep that in mind, and it goes for all modules. So, coming back to it, you will place an email address where you need to get your exam results or your test results. Okay. So you can give a new email address. Doesn't have to be a registered email you got initially. You gave to the association. Could be any email address. So just um, any email address that you want to give will become a record, and it's important not to change this email address for the sake of attempting or getting your taking a pause and coming back to the exam. It has to be the same email address, because this email address will become your login also. So here I'm going to give my personal email address, and I'm going to push start. Start here is not starting the exam. So keep that in mind. Don't worry about this first instance of start. When I do this, it is going to ask me for a password. Now, this password, this is where students get confused. This is not the same password that is given to you in this practice exam. The one that you're looking at is the one that actually starts the exam or starts your Q&As. Okay. So at this point where I am showing you simulation, I'm showing you it's the exact way of how you're going to assume that you are not starting the exam yet. You have to just keep that in mind. When the exam has to start, I'll tell you. Now here, I'm going to give a password that you require for you to return back to the exam in case you decide to pause the exam at any point. So that's this. This is the exact password we can use. So to make it easy, I'm going to say mm, A of IRS 1234. A of IRS 1234. And now when I click start, I have a new password and an email address. Don't want to save it. Okay. And after this, it is now leading me to a password which is given to you in that in here. And let me see what that password is. I'm going to copy this password. This is the password used to actually start the exam. Okay. This is not the password you just registered with your email. It is a password that should have been given to you to gain access here. Okay. Which means you're about to start the test. So okay, my first name I have to give in. Now, this name that you're going to put, it has to be the exact name that you want on your certificates. If you give a incorrect name or it is misspelled, it becomes a manual process and it might just delay the release of your certificate. So I say, it's saying you have 37 questions, time is this much, 1 hour, so it is 74 minutes. Will allow you to save and finish at later date. Question displayed is one question per page. Will not allow you, so you can't scroll anything. You will see how it goes. Once you have answered a question, you cannot go back. So if you want a return or back button, that's not going to be available to you. Just keep that in mind. If you don't attempt a question or leave it blank, it's not going to take you to the next one. As a pass mark of 75%. Now, 75% can be differential in terms of fractional results. So if it is 75 point, so I'm sorry, if it is 74.5 and above, you will pass the exam. If it is 74, it won't do it. So, you have to come to that, over the point 0.5 mark on any whole number to give it a fraction that actually would add to your or give that bonus 5% of add to your percentage. and that's how it is programmed. Then you are going to do continue. Once I hit continue, it's going to give you okay, here is another one. Uh, it's just giving you some instruction. You agree not to copy, take photos, capture screens, sabotage, plagiarize, vandalize. You can read through it. This is just a statement, and it is kind of a disclaimer as well as giving AOFIRS the authority to um, either accept the results or not accept the results. So this is one of those. Once you've read this, and now I believe that's when the exam actually, the Q&As will start rolling. So here you've got a timer. It says 1 hour, 13 time left. And this line over here will keep moving. This will be an orange color and this will keep moving as you attempt your question. So we've got 37 questions for your practice and we'll start filling. I'm not very good at this. I might be wrong in answering. So we're just going to do few of them and then that will give you an idea of how it works. Okay, that's the reason we are doing it. Can you identify from the list giving below what is not considered a typical characteristic of a web application? Module one is not very difficult. It's just logical questions. Some of them are plain common sense, uh, and they're not technically as they're not built to test your technology skills. It's more on the concept side. Not considered typical characteristics of web application. It uses remote internet connection. It needs web browser to connect. Only works with static code hosting. I believe C is correct, so I'm going to try that. Now, when you do this, the the next button that you have pressed, and that's what I did when I answered this question, it brought me to the same screen, except that it's not taken me to the next question. It's what it has done is told me whether my answer was correct or incorrect. So in case my answer is correct, I would look at it, maybe just so that there is no confusion, I can just mark it somewhere or scribble it down that my first question was correct. So I got 1 out of 1 point. And this would now allow me to go to the next question. Um, so if I do next now, it has taken me on this question here. Okay. So here it's saying match HTML tags with and attributes in HTML with header portion of body. So what is considered heading and what is considered body of text in terms of text recognition? Remember we did H1, H2 that these are non-meta tags and they're in the body of text, whereas these meta tags are usually in the header portion. So I know the second one is in the header, and obviously what's left over is in the body of text. So this is my answer. So there could be different patterns or formats in which these exams are set. These are called um, matching questions. Okay. So we have to match with the options here. Okay. Sometimes I feel that the fonts are very small and that might be troublesome. I don't know if it allows you to no, I don't think so. So anyway, you have to look closer and read it. That's how it is. By the way, in case I want to now take a break and I don't have time to finish the rest of the questions, I might just use this button, which is save and finish later. So let's see what happens when I do that. Progress saved. So remember, I attempted the second question and I didn't go to the next. I didn't even check if it is correct or not. And I just answered and saved it. Now that it is saved, I says to resume, please use the original link and start. But now what this is saying is that I can leave And that's about, I could just leave the screen open. I can even shut the screen. It wouldn't make any difference. Why is because let's suppose I shut this. Okay, I've closed it and I want to resume from where I left. I will go back and get that link again. This is my link, copied it. It would ask me my email address, the one that I gave it in the first instance, which was Naveed M at, and my password was A of IRS 1, 2, 3, 4. And as soon as I hit resume, it's going to start. So now it took me to the third question. All right. Um, so over here, this is the third question, as you could see. Earlier, when I did not press next and looked up whether my answer is correct or not, it is just not going to take me back to it. So might have been a better idea if when I answered that question, I should go to the next, check if it's correct or not before I pause or save and finish later button is pressed. Okay, so here is another question. Fill in the blocks with the query type A, B, and C. Refer to the image below to find your answer. So here there is a space, there's B here, there's A here, there's C here. So I need to put in the missing information, which means it could be a set in the first set A or in set A, B, or C. In set A, I have A, B, and C. A is exploratory, B is navigational, C is commercial. Correct. So my answer C is correct. This is correct. Now it will take me to the next question. So this is how the timer is running. Now, at the end of it, because there are 37 questions and we don't have to do all of them. So what I will suggest is that just note down how you will attempt these. And then we look at the sample questions or the pattern in which they occur. I will log in as an admin into these tests and I will show you the different patterns. So I'm basically save and finish later. I'm closing this and here I'm already logged in on this screen as an admin. So before I start this one, let's just take a short break. Pretty much this is the only thing that we need to cover, and then we will just review the book or the chapters to give an idea or get an idea of what are more important and what are less important. This is my prerogative. I can give you the hints. I can tell you what could be most important for the exams and so on. So I'll use that privilege, I guess, and I want all of you to pass the exam because that reflects really nicely. If you do that and pass, it sort of um, you know it reflects nicely on my ability to teach you as well as for you to find that I could be more than cooperative when it comes to passing the exam in case you need guidance. Even later on, if you decide to give your exam a month after, or for whatever reason you just gave and passed maybe one or two modules, a few remaining, you can always come back to me. You can write me, and I will be able to assist you. The idea is really to get you to pass the CIRS. That's the whole idea. So let's just take a short break for 10 minutes, and I'll come back to you shortly.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm back. I hope you can see my screen and you can hear my voice. If all is clear, we will start with where we left.
So I'm
Um,
hearing and seeing you, Naveed.
okay, thank you, James. Now, these are some of the questions we will try to attempt. Um, these are coming with the exam, with the answers as well. So that is something I cannot do away with. So you would know the answers already, except that if you get to see the pattern, that should be good enough. At least the type of questions that come in, that would do it for all of us. So let's get to it. Review. Okay. So this is the module 2, and these are sample questions. Uh, the ones that you will see in your Q&A practice. Um, a dash search query is an internet search with the intent of finding specific website. This query navigates to web pages whose links or addresses is known. Example of this type of search query is given in 1 and 2 below. As you could see, this is the query Air Canada. Okay, simple query. This is the web address to Air Canada. So if we know the address, if we know where we want to go, if you remember when we were doing intent and context, we looked at the type of queries which were shown in the illustration. If you recall, there was navigational, exploratory, transactional search query. So the one that is mentioned here with these two examples, 1 and 2, are pointing to navigational query. So my answer would be A. Then there would be questions that will just require an answer with a yes or no, a simple yes or a no. So there'll be these statements or concepts that are written like this one, for example. It says web-based experiment or internet-based experiment is an experiment that is conducted over the internet. A social psychology is probably the discipline that have used these experiments most widely, although a range of other disciplines uses web-based experiments. So, web-based experiments, what are those? Let's look at the choice of answers. Um, yes or no? The answer is yes. And when you are reading through the book and you're looking at the chapter that talks about um, interviews, talks about focus groups, all of those. Um, and there are, these this chapter, I can't recall exactly what chapter number it is, but you can connect with it because remember we talked about social experiments. So yes, this statement is correct. Then we've got you are required to fill in the message. So this is fill in the blanks. A dash trial is any research study that prospectively assigns human participants or groups of humans to one or more health related. So this is clinical trials. Okay. Then we've got the period needed to complete. So these are fill in the blanks. Mm, Here in question 7, it is talking about the tags. So a tag that is actually a title tag is shown over here. You got to do the matching. So if you had to answer this question, it will come in somewhat like this. It will say match this statement with the statement on the right hand side. This tag, meta name or meta tag, okay, In text and all in text, it reads description tag. In URL, all in URL reads uh, the one that is href tag, which is talking about the link, or it has a link inside of it. Okay, so this is in URL. But as you attempt these questions, you will find it easy to work with. In the statistics or quantitative analysis, these diagrams are the ones that will just show up. You don't have to do any computation. For example, in this one, a graph below represents a method of quantitative analysis. What does the percentages uh, imply, or what do they identify? So the answer could be standard deviations. Okay, this is a chart for standard deviation. This is a chart for measuring averages. So here mean mean is same as average. Okay. In question 15, it says the user wants to find data on California elections 2003, but cannot remember the exact day of the month. So it is the kind of query that we did with asterisk, if you remember. So the missing part here, which is the day we don't know of, we're going to use the asterisk. This is the correct way of writing the query. You can see right here. This one, it is asking about long tail and short tail. Secondary keyword certification, tail word course. So here you have to do the matching. So the match, you have to do the matching. It will give you options like internet research, like what is the primary keyword, for instance. The choices will be internet research, certification, course. Okay, so you have to select between all of these. So internet research is the primary keyword, secondary is certification, the tail word is course. So it's not very difficult to answer. Okay, one of the things that I'll caution you is when we are doing the search queries, for instance, like these ones, okay, it's saying that match the statement to how the queries are written. So if for the first one, the answer is one, for the second query, the answer is, so this would be the numbers that you have to call, that has to correspond to these four different types of query that you have to build. Uh, what I would ask is, like, for instance, over here, this is around, and this is not written in capital letters. So this will not work. Okay. So these are some of the errors that you will have to be watchful about to know if they're workable or not. Then we've got and by the way, if you don't agree with any search query, you can always write to the education at aofirs.org to let them know that you don't agree with the answer, because after you get done with your practice, anytime you finish up your practice Q&As, you will get the results coming to your email, the one that you registered with when you started, the first email that you gave. That's where your results are coming. So the email I gave was naveedm@yahoo.com. So anytime I get finished with one attempt, I will get all my results coming back with the correct answers displayed in that return results. So you can check, and if at any time you don't feel that this is not done correctly, or the answer that you gave was correct, and examiner, or for whatever reason, if the question itself is confusing, whatever you feel about it, you can put it in writing, but you have to mark that question, because the numbering of the question will change, because they're pulled from the question banks and their numbering changes. So you have to um, make a screenshot of the whole question and send it with your comments to support it, just so you know that. And a lot of times, it is easier to look for all the correct answers, first of all, that will be showing, and then just comply with it to get it over with. Otherwise, your results will get stuck. You have questions or something that you don't agree with, that kind of creates a dispute situation. And so there is a cycle to it, and it may take as long as like 3 weeks to over a month for someone to get back to you to tell you, or to either agree or disagree with. So if you got the answers that you now remember these to be correct or incorrect with what is returned back to you, you can apply the same in your final exams, because it will be similar or same questions also. So, that is your choice. But I'm just letting you know that this might happen also, and it has happened in the past. Here you've got, a situation, and these are the search queries. Whereas when we attempted, if you remember, we were using two dots to give it a range between the prices, and it wasn't giving us a good result, or it wasn't really getting executed, because somehow Google does make changes, and at times it is in the middle of changes, and some of the queries will not work, or they could be flaky. Okay. So that is not as important for us, but what is really important is the concept, whether they are structured properly or not. That's what the choice means when you are given multiple answers or multiple queries to a situation as this one. So get that. Don't try to attempt it, or don't try to run it in your browser, uh, because first of all, it will take away the time that is precious during the exams. Second is that the result may not come as you expect. Like I said, Google might be doing something. The other day, I remember, and do you recall, James, when we were doing, you were in the webinar, the icons had disappeared. The ones that listed the type of files like XLSs and PDFs and so on.
Yeah, it was very strange and unhelpful for you.
Yeah, it's like I wished I had a control over that, but there are these situations where you would just sit and say, this is what Google says, this is what I used to do. Now things have changed. And why has it changed? You have no reason to believe that, you know, and obviously, I mean, I wouldn't think that this might happen. It just comes out of the blue. Um, and and you don't even have an explanation for it, because you don't know what's going on behind the algorithms they're running. So
Is
they
there,
might, and then yes, please go ahead.
do they ever send updates about what they're changing, or?
We normally we don't have the capacity to do that, but what we do make changes in is the book or the notes, or somewhere where, unless we come to that point where we have discovered something new, and it so happens that you are part of the group, that when the changes happen, we were, in the process of discussing that issue, it won't be highlighted. So
Well,
that
what
is
I meant
the
was does Google notify
no, no.
users? You just have to
Google
find
don't
out.
care. They don't even bother. They're not even, there is no information coming from Google, but there are forums that we go to normally. We check it out. Then we also look at some of the articles or some of the um, writers that are working very close with Google search engine people, higher ups, in the technology side, so they're able to, disclose some of the information. Like for instance, there is um, mm, Barry Shorts, for example. He is very well known to have very good relation with Mueller, John Mueller, who's the guy who basically does who's the interface, okay, that answers in the forum on behalf of Google. So he's very close with him, and when you go to his website, you will find some of those changes. Um, there is called Search Engine Roundtable. I'll show you what that is. You may want to check this out. Search engine land. There's this one of them. It's called search engine land. The other one is engine roundtable. So here we get to read, if there is something new that's come up. Besides, we have volunteers that are actually doing the searches on regular basis to, and while they're doing it, they are finding something new and they bring that issue to us. And then we have a committee. We have like three people in the organization that review that and then come up with what is going on, or they sort of have a way of discovering it through that channel, as well as testing it out themselves. So that's how we sort of bring that knowledge into our organization. I wish there was something that Google would be talking about, or announcing changes, but they don't do that. It's something for the users to discover, unfortunately. That is why this has become more like a science for us, and science that is can only be as accurate as we understand it. It's a very unique science in that sense. So, having said this, I'd say that we don't have anything that would discover something and then we will inform all our because that would be a proactive uh, effort for which we don't have the capacity to tackle it.
Yes,
And
that's
whenever they make
very fair.
that's a problem. And Justin, remember, and you're coming from the HR sort of background, and that's what you query most, eh? So we have quite a bit of search queries that are set exactly for the situations like yours. So if you want to look up in the book to find, um, if you have to look for resumes, for instance, there is a chapter, and most of the students they don't get enough time to read through the content page. At least the content page will give you the idea of where this information is and where those queries are displayed.
Yeah, I
It
would.
will be a good idea for you to go and check it out, because that will cover the whole 9 yards for you. No.
Yeah, I would say that I think a lot of the places, um, I think they've gotten wise to what recruiters were doing, and you now have to pay to to scan resumes through ZipRecruiter or Indeed, and it's like a couple hundred
Mhm.
dollars to a couple $1,000s a month. And so really,
Mhm.
I think the only way to like really query things using Google or is LinkedIn.
I
That's
think so too,
that's
because what else can they do? I mean, it's not like it's their own database they're querying in, and that could be stale, because the kind of information you need. Sometimes it has to be current enough, or it has to be precise for exactly matching it with what you're looking for in those resumes. So for that reason, I'd say that the best they could probably do is embed those queries or those things, to sort of make it somewhat similar to, where the Google has advanced search. Easily, you can basically use that advanced search window. I don't know if you've done that. That's embedding the uh, the operators in that search box. So maybe that's what they're doing, and they're charging for using that search engine. The recruiters have their own search engines, Justin, or that's like internally, you can access it through getting through a subscription
Uh,
or something. I'm
hmm.
just
Yeah, I mean,
curious. That's
yeah, I mean, I think most places are um, have their own databases and they're using um, extensions to where they can just grab LinkedIn profiles and add them to their own database.
Mhm.
Because I don't think that there's a lot of uh, capital to kind of pay for a
Mm.
subscription with Indeed or ZipRecruiter and find
Mhm.
resumes. I think it's more about kind of what you can get for free, and LinkedIn is pretty much the only source that I know
So
of.
they must have connected it through some feeds or XML codes or something that sort of scours through or extracts that information,
Yeah,
from those websites. Okay. All
yeah,
right. But with the queries that we have, you can go there directly and do the same thing, though. All right.
yeah.
Uh, so that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So anyway, um, not much here except for you to, discover, look for, and practice with. So if you go into these Q&As, they should be sufficient enough. They should be good enough for you to actually practice with and then attempt your final exams. If you're really, and where is Dorothy? I haven't heard from her. Hi, Dorothy.
Here, I'm listening
You're
and taking it all in.
so what is your intention of how you intend to use the search queries that you learned so far? How was the course for you for getting to know how to do those search queries, specifically speaking? Was that useful? You
It
could
was
use
very,
those?
it was very useful. Yeah. And it's given me tools to construct better and more efficient queries when I'm researching things for patrons. Because one of the problems we have is, especially lately, people don't want to wait. They want an answer right away or they'll just walk away. So the more
Mm.
efficient I can get at generating good answers, the better.
So, in your line of what you do, I believe in the library environment, do you deal with the internal databases more, or it is more of a search that you do on Google just through the internet?
The majority
What
of
type
it
of
the majority of it now is online searches. I mean, we do some of the traditional look up books or look up things in our databases, but most of the
Mm,
questions are just, it's not something that we're going to have in the databases. They're not looking for a specific
mm,
book or a specific article. They're looking for an answer to something or to find something.
mm. I see. And they won't do it on their own, or they would just give you as an assigned task to get it
Um,
for them. So
we're
how does it?
dealing with a community that has a lot of um, fears about the computer. The digital divide is very real, and
Mm,
we work with a lot of people. They're very intimidated by the idea of getting on the computer and searching. Even if you tell them,
I
Google
see.
does 90% of the
Mm,
work for you. There's just still a big intimidation there. And a lot of people Or like when we're doing virtual chat, people will just text ask a librarian rather
Hmm.
than just go into Google and search for it themselves. So
That's interesting because well, that's going to take a long time just to tell you. But in short, I can relate to what you're talking about because about 10, 12 years ago, we had built something called Be Vocalized. It's a technology which we ended up selling to a company in USA. And what it used to do is that it has a way of figuring out based on instructions that are verbally generated or verbally communicated through a phone call. It would interpret that, make it into a textual format, and then push it into the internet and bring back the correct answers or enough close enough answers and then read it back to them. So it was all hands free, kind of, right? So this was the concept where actually it was delivered back through AI, somewhat similar to Siri, and that's where it was my thing. I basically did that concept, basically made it real. So that is what those people who didn't want to even bother looking for something, or at least to the extent where they thought maybe, while they're driving a car, they would just send out instructions to get the information or quick information back. Our product would do that for them. So but here there is a human factor in your case, and this is where you have to there will be more of a responsibility as a human being to bring better quality of answers. So I can see where you're connecting with this. And James, what would you be using it for? If I may ask, what would be your main strategy with having this information now, how to do the search? Where would you use it?
For me, it isn't necessarily tied to my professional activities. I really just felt that, for something that I do day to day and really rely so much on in that being internet research, that
Mhm.
um, it's just a highly valuable skill to have, and being able to apply it within the in professional field is just an added bonus.
So, in that sense, what would you think of the artificial intelligence coming as one of the products is Chat GPT, for instance? I get questions that sort of wants me to differentiate, or somehow um, people like to know if the products like Chat GPT will take over the building of these search queries and would do it on its own. um, how would that depreciate or somehow not utilize these skills, because it's now giving you the answers. It's giving you what it thinks is best fitting to your questions, because it has the understanding of what you're asking. Would you
Yeah,
say that
yeah. My thinking there, at this stage, at the very least, there are still big questions about the uh, reliability of information that you get from the likes of ChatGPT. So at the very least, I'm told you should be able to verify information that you're getting from those sources. And I've still got to get my head around different uses of the they're called language model. I've forgotten what they're called. The wider system, the likes of ChatGPT. But I gather that they're better at certain tasks than others, and so I think the next step for me will be working out how I can best leverage them, but not just default to them to do everything for me.
Correct. So I think what is the crux of it, of what would be the main differentiator, is the humans being skeptical and not being certain to uh, what level they can rely on that information that's given to them, because it is mechanically produced, and perhaps there is a level of confidence and the ability for a human being to satisfy their curiosity, and for them to be able to be in control of what information is given to them. So that could be a differentiator, probably. So definitely,
If I could
it's not
just,
like, yes, please, go ahead.
if I could just add, sorry to interrupt, that and this ties into my use of what we've learned here in just the regular search engines is, it's just become more and more apparent to me how much the results I get are skewed by commercial interest, and I think the same is
That's another.
going to be applicable with the language modeling um, systems. And so what I found putting some of this methodology into practice is just finding some great, really valuable stuff that I just never come across before, because it wasn't important enough in the algorithm. It wasn't created by a big, powerful player, but has really valuable information nonetheless.
Okay, so that makes sense, and thank you for that input. Obviously, I mean, it's the last class, and I needed some feedbacks, and I was very curious on this issue of Chat GPT. I get these questions a lot, and it is a good answer and very healthy to discuss the utilization of what we've learned so far. And with this, I don't say that we have anything more to discuss, from the CIRS point of view. How many of you would be looking forward to attempting the CIRS exam now, or you have planned to give it later on some point? Or is it important for all three of you enough that you would want to go for it, or just leave it out? Just out of, again, they would have come to you as a questionnaire, which is a survey questionnaire. So I might as well just ask now. Um, what do you
I'm
say to that?
definitely, I'm definitely keen to get this certification, but I'll be revising before I take the exam. So in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. So how about you, Dorothy? Are you planning to get certified?
Oh, yes, I plan to get certified and take the test. It,
And
it may,
Justin, what is your, sure, please. Sorry, Dorothy, I didn't mean to
that's okay.
intrude.
It may
Go
be a
ahead.
few months because life is just really hectic right now, and I want to work through the
Sure.
tests and work through things, but I'm gonna get there eventually.
Yeah, it is available to you for a long, long time. So 12 months is enough time. So, but at least you have that motivation to go for it, which is a good news for. What about you, Justin? What do you say? Would
Uh,
it do any good for you to get certified, or?
I think maybe in the next 6 months or so. I think we covered a lot in the classes, but I still think that there's more area to cover. And I just, maybe I also just want to talk to some other people who maybe had the certification and what it's done for them. But yeah, probably at some point in the future, I'll take the exam.
Okay, good enough. So, thank you very much for your feedback and for the discussion we just did, which was somewhat kind of a concluding um, remarks. I say that I'm delighted that I had you in the group, and very happy to have delivered with my best ability I could. Hopefully, we still be in touch if you require any assistance from our side, specifically from my side. You have my email address. We have covered, and there's a lot to digest, I understand. So, good luck to all of you, and thank you again so much for taking the class. All right.
Thank
So
you.
let's
Very informative.
keep in touch. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Jessica.
Thank you so much, Naveed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thanks
All the
for your
best to
time.
you.
Take care.
Take care.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.